That's off. That's on. It looks good. Alright, let's go. Hello! Shadowcat back with more of Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I think we're almost done with this one. I think we are. I have a pretty good feeling about this. I still have some complaints with the way the system goes, but those may be ameliorated today as we go through some of the rest of the rules and try to actually build something. So I'm going to take some of the stuff that I already used from Pathfinder 1. I'm going to try to integrate that into Pathfinder 2nd Edition and see if it still works. And if it does work, then great. I mean, job done, right? And if it doesn't work, then, you know, we got to still work on it a little bit. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to do. But before we do any of that, naturally, if you're here and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. Press the bell icon. That way you get notified every time these videos come out. If you know somebody else who's also into tabletop gaming, in particular, Pathfinder and Starfinder 2E, go ahead and, you know, share this with them. Otherwise, though, if you just like me, like what I'm doing, leave a like on the video, leave a comment down below. But if you're going to leave a comment down below, might I suggest you go ahead and join the Discord that we have. We have one. Everybody has a Discord these days, but, you know, we have one too, and we play games there. So, if you want to come play games with us, then join the Discord, go to the Behind the Screen channel, let me know who you are, what you want to play, what your availability is, and as soon as I can get a group together, we'll play. I have a Star Trek game that is currently going right now, and it's just about to take a left turn because things happened. In fact, they just spent like a week, or a month of downtime refitting a starship, so yeah, we're going to be doing stuff. I'm also still trying to set up a Warhammer 40,000 Gene Stealer game. So if you want to play either of those or something else entirely, come join us. So, let's get into things. And before we do that, I do see that Blizz is in the chat. Hello, Blizz. Good to see you here. Let's go over what we did last time real quick. So, naturally, I will need to bring in our browser. And I'll need a spreadsheet as well. I'll drag this up. Oh, actually, I guess I won't drag that up. I have to move this back up here, and then I can drag it up. Perfect, there we go. Okay. Oh, I can also get rid of this. We don't need that. Oh, and JP is in. Hello, JP. Good to see you, too. Alright, so like I said, let's go through what we did last time, because last time I had built a fighter, which felt really, really weird. But it actually came out really well. And so it kind of changed my opinion of a lot of things, because we spent our time looking at armor and weapons and what fighters can do with them, and it all came out pretty decently. For the most part. I do still have some complaints with it, but I can see how it's at least playable. And that's kind of where I am right now. For a fighter, I did a level 12 fighter, same thing as a level 12 wizard. Nothing had really changed there. Looking at the attacks, the problem that I have with a lot of this is the homogeneity of it. The fact is that looking at the wizard has only unarmed and simple proficiency when it comes to weapons. And because of that, the wizard has a plus 17 in both of those. Because again, proficiency is your the appropriate ability score. So for melee attacks, it's going to be strength, and for ranged attacks, that'll be dexterity. Then it's your level. So that's an automatic plus 12 to everything. And then whatever other items or advantages you have. There's a lot of stuff there. But the point is that just having your level applied directly to your attack bonus is massive. Now, to be fair, if you are a fighter, this is actually nothing new. Because in Pathfinder 1, you had a base attack bonus. And the progression of that base attack bonus was one of 3 tiers. It was either going to be slow, medium, or fast. Now, fast progression for either saves or base attack bonus was 1 per level, okay? It was literally just 1. Medium, however, was 0.75, rounded down. And what that meant is that, if I come down here for a moment, at level 1, let me do this. There we go. So at level 1, it would be 0.75. However, since you round down, your base attack bonus at level 1 is 0. At level 2, 0.75 times 2 is 1.5. Therefore, we round down, it would be 1. At level 3, well, 1.5 plus another 0.75 is 2.25. We round down, it's 2. And so right now it looks like we're behind until we get to the 2.25 plus 7 or plus 0.75. Now we're going up to 3 and so forth. We're basically looking like we're 1 behind, but that's because we're adding 0.75 for each one. And then slow is just 0.5. Or was it 0.66? It was 0.5 though. And 0.5 is literally just every other level. And so you had slow progression, medium progression, and fast progression. And that made every character feel a little bit different. Your wizards had a slow base attack bonus progression. Okay, made sense. They're not martial fighters. At the same time, though, wizards had a standard progression for their will saves. Fighters had standard progression for their fortitude saves. Both of them also had bad saves with slower progression. And so it meant that they felt different. So I still have a big problem with this. This feels weird, and I think we're going to have a bit of an issue with that when I get into, like, NPCs and monsters and stuff, because I'll explain later. The skills I have less of a problem with, and it's more because I looked at the skills and I looked at how I usually do skills with people, and it kind of matches up. When I help people build a character, because when I do my games, I sit down with everybody and I help them make their character, because I want your character to be the best character we can make. Okay? And so I'm not just going to throw you in here and say, make your character, I'll give it a look over, and then we'll play. No, I sit down with every single player and I say, who do you want to be? What do you want to do? What kind of character do you want to play? What role do you want to fill? And how do we make the best of you that we can? And I gotta say, for the time being, it's worked out pretty well. Okay, I haven't had a player complain yet that we spent too much time on character creation and they don't like their character. So, I'm doing something right here. And when I do this, when we get to skills, I usually do it like this. I look at what is your intelligence modifier, and how many skills are you allowed by your class. And rather than take those skills and try to evenly distribute them across everything, although you can, I won't stop you from doing so, my advice has always been, to pick that number of skills and specialize in them. So, if you are a rogue, okay, rogues have basically all the skills, and they get a lot of skill points. But they have more class skills than they get skill points, and they get like 9 plus their intelligence modifier. So if you've got like a +3, that's 12 skill points per level. But if you have like 17 skills, I'm going to tell you to pick 12 of them and just specialize. Which seems to be what they've gone through for 2nd edition, which means that I'm probably not the only person who is giving that kind of advice. Instead, what they've done is they've just said, you know what? Your class skills are your class skills. Let's pretend that you're dedicated to them. You're going to get your level because level and skill rank are already basically intertwined. So the skills make sense. I get behind that. The saves, I'm less thrilled with because it jacks up the saves really high. However, seeing as how you're rolling against things like these class modifiers, where we have the class DC, spell attack DC, the regular spell DC, I mean, these are your saves, this is what you're rolling against, and keep in mind that these saves are basically just like a take 10. The spell attack is going to be rolling a d20, which is why it looks like it's 10 lower. The same thing is true for these. We get back to the whole homogeneity thing. Everything looks like it's been flattened. If this was the standard character, okay? If this was a standard character, okay? And my level 12 wizard was going up against another level 12 wizard, we're looking at basically a coin toss. Almost everything down here is a coin toss. Because these are going to roll a d20. If you roll a 10, you either succeed or fail based on one number. This has a 50% chance of success. These have 45% chances of success. And then, because everything is built on level, if we take a step back and go backwards in the levels, all we are doing is modifying the probability of success by 5% increments, because every level is just a 5% increment. That's all there is. Now, do your ability scores up here help? Yes, they do. They really do. So does the proficiency training up here. Everything up here is expert. If I was only trained in these, well, since every one of these is a +2 bonus, every single one of these is a 10% chance of additional success. And I don't have a huge problem with that, but again, it is just flat. It feels flat. Which is where we got to with like the fighter last week, because we built the fighter and the fighter's looking pretty good, but when we look at like the melee attack, ooh, a +19. Well, that's 2 higher than the wizard. Why doesn't the wizard just go smack people up? You could say that the reason is because the wizard doesn't have, the same proficiencies. Wizards only get simple weapons. A fighter gets martial weapons. They can hit things better. Or at least they can do more damage with the things that they hit with. Okay. It's not that big a deal, though. As far as the armor classes go, we sat down, we looked at that, and armor is just not great. It's really not. Armor is a little bit better. When we looked at what we could do with the armor, I took leather armor because wanted light armor on this character. And with the application of runes, we can push our leather armor from a +1 AC up to a +3 AC. Which ain't much. And quite frankly, that's kind of the story across all of the armors, because when you look at armor, you have to look at your armor bonus and your dexterity bonus, and they tend to balance out. Lighter armor has less AC, but higher dex values. Heavier armor has higher armor values, but lower dex values. And for the most part, all of your medium and light armors are just a +5. Like, look at what your dexterity is. And then just pick the appropriate armor for that. There's no thinking beyond that. There's really not. That's until you get into the heavier armors, which will offer you 1 extra point, and that's it. Shields? Shields do not really offer you AC in the same way they used to. I took a regular steel shield because, looking at this character, I use a one-handed whip. So I've got one hand open for a shield. The best shield in the game, as far as I can tell, is the steel shield. There are other shields that will offer you different protections, but in general, steel shield, best shield. That gives you a +2 AC when you're using it, which takes an action, which I'm okay with. I've come to grips with that one. But only a +2 AC. Shields in first edition were a lot better. However, I do believe that shields in second edition have a different methodology. Shields in 2E are less there to be used as like an armor bonus, and more kind of fill the role of temporary hit points. Now, there are a lot of things that would give you temporary hit points before. There's a lot of spell stuff that would do that. Shields, however, when you use the ability Shield Block is a reaction ability, I believe, and what that's going to allow you to do is to use your shield as a damage mitigator. You get to take the hardness off of the damage. You're basically sundering your own shield to mitigate damage, instead of, them trying to sunder your shield instead, which I think they still can. But the point remains. The hardness is going to negate some of the damage, and then whatever damage bleeds over will go into the shield's HP and into your HP. So you're treating it both as a damage mitigator and as temporary hit points. It's a little bit weird, but I think I get it. My problem isn't so much with the shields. It's not so much with the armor, although I do think the armor is kind of pointless. It's just that everything seems flatter because the unarmored fighter has an unarmored class of 20. And our lightly armored, we were able to push up to 25. When we looked at the wizard has an unarmored trained. By the way, only trained. I feel like I might even have to go through that again. Is that even right? Either way, unarmored armor class of 20. It's the same as the fighter. That just seems wrong. Okay? It seems wrong in so many ways, and I'm not going to get into it. We already did. So, anyway, that's where we stand right now. That's what we did last time. And JP says, neighbor stopped by, had to be neighborly. I know. People are hard. Alright, so, getting into what we're looking at today. Let me put this back down. Right about there should be good. So what we're doing today is I'm trying to go ahead and make some of these numbers work. and see if I can make the rest of everything, everything function. Because in previous games, let me start over for a second here. My philosophy when it comes to gaming is that I do not curate my games. And what does that mean? Generally speaking, when you are looking at... And maybe I can pull this up. Generally speaking, when you're going into a game to make it, because you can buy modules all day, and the modules have everything set aside for you. When you're making a game, however... No, don't show this anymore. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, like right here, encounter design. And this is going to get into some of the really complicated stuff that goes on behind the screen. Stuff that most players will never look at and never even think about. So, for example, challenge ratings. Challenge rating, or CR, is a convenient number used to indicate the relative danger presented by a monster, trap, hazard, or other encounter. The higher the CR, the more dangerous the encounter. In order to determine the challenge rating, you should base it on your group's APL, average party level. So, right here, it says that average party level, if you want something to be easy, it should be your average party level -1. Average should be the APL, just standard. Challenging should be +1. Hard +2. Epic +3. That is kinda, sorta, just the way, or the overview, and it uses the balancing that Paizo did when they were creating everything. So, for example, challenge. Let's see, challenge rating. Do they have the explanation of challenge rating up here? That's CR equivalencies. That's encounter design, challenge rating. I guess they're not going to explain challenge rating here. So, challenge rating, if they're not going to explain it here, they probably do somewhere, I just don't exactly know where it is. Challenge rating is roughly to say everything in tabletop gaming was kind of built around the idea of a party of 4. And hello, I don't know who you are, MG? I don't know if I've met you before, but hello, welcome to the stream. They say sandbox versus linear, just overthinking. Also, hi, hello. Kind of backtracking this series, I'm an aspiring GM wanting to run Starfinder soon. Well, I hope you're going to stick around then, because right now I'm working on Pathfinder, but as soon as I'm done, I will start learning Starfinder 2nd Edition. So, yeah. By the way, if you are an aspiring GM and you want to talk, join the Discord, alright? Seriously, I can talk your ear off about it for hours. Anyway, getting back to this. Challenge rating. The idea when Dungeons & Dragons was first made is that it was built around a 4-player party. Now, who those 4 players were was up to you. I mean, the traditional one was the fighter, the rogue, the wizard, and whoever else you wanted. The ranger, the cleric, whatever. But it was always a 4-person group. And so when they were asking, what is a challenge for a 4-person group, that became the challenge rating. So like a goblin is a challenge rating of 1/3. Meaning that a single goblin is not even really a challenge for one person. Which is fair. It's a goblin. So if you wanted to add goblins, you want to at least reach 1. So if a goblin has a challenge rating of 1/3, then you want to basically add your goblins in increments of 3. A group of 3 goblins is a challenge for 4, or an appropriate challenge, I should say, for 4 level 1 characters. And that's the idea there. If your characters are level 2, use 2 groups of 3 goblins. Now you got 6. And so on and so forth, and you can always add them or add more of them. Let me hop over to the bestiary real quick. Where is it? Here it is. And we'll just pick... Well, actually, no. Here we go. Because they have them sorted by CR right here. CR -1. If we look at some of these, we should find... the goblin in here should be under 1/3. Yep, there it is. There's goblins. There's goblins. There's merfolk. There's common orcs. Okay, your common everyday orc barbarian is just, it's a very low CR. Rats. Rats are technically not even that. Rats would be like up here. Where would they be? Raven. Yeah, here we go. Common rat has a CR of 1/4. So if you wanted to make a level 1 encounter, you know, go kill rats down in the cellar. You've got 4 people, throw down their 4 rats. That's an appropriate thing. And then everything scales up. So, for example, let's just pick a random number here. Let's go with the CR of, well, 12, because I've been building level 12 characters. So if my wizard and my fighter, who are the same person, but let's pretend that they're not for right now, plus a couple of friends, wanted to go fight something that is an appropriate encounter for them, what does that look like? And right here, here's a great Cyclops. I mean, the Odyssey just came out, right? Everyone's talking about the Odyssey. Let's talk Cyclops. So, Cyclops is a huge humanoid. Makes sense. Anybody who has ever read it. It has an AC of 26. Now, keep in mind, this is the AC in Pathfinder 1. If I was to go to Pathfinder 2, Game Mastery, Creatures, here we go. Let me see if I can find... See if they got a Cyclops in here. There's only 3,700 monsters in here. I wonder if I can search it. Enter search query. Cyclops. Yep, here we go. There's a Cyclops right here. This one's only large, though. Well, you know what? We'll take a look at it anyway. Unless we get a bigger one. Cyclops Seeker, still large. Cyclops Zombie. No, let's look at the regular Cyclops. Okay. So let's look here. Let's see. Recall knowledge, perception, languages, skills. Does it give us a... Oh, no. Over here it says creature 5. So I'm guessing that's going to be our challenge rating. So this will be a challenge rating of 5. Okay, not 12 like the Greater Cyclops. Well, here we go. This is the regular Cyclops in Pathfinder 1 then. This is also a CR5. They just don't have the greater one in Pathfinder 2. So if we're looking at like a party of 5 people, 5 people are going to have 5 hit dice. So if we're looking at like a hit die of, say, 6, then that's going to be 30 hit points, plus whatever their constitution is. We're looking at, if we're using Pathfinder 2e rules, we're talking attack bonuses of, like, a +9, +7, +9, somewhere in that area. We're talking saves are going to be basically the same thing. When we compare that to the Cyclops over here, if a level 5 character had an attack bonus of like +9, it has an armor class of 21. So we're talking about a 45% chance to actually hit. Fortitude save of plus 13, which means that if you're saving through, if your DCs are somewhere in the area of like 29, it's got about a, I'd say maybe like a 60-70% chance of succeeding against your DCs, which makes sense. Let's see. MG says, website shows degrees of strength for the Cyclops. Weak, normal, and elite. That may change the stats and rating. Do they do that? All monsters in Cyclops. Oh, no, yeah, check that out. Here we go. There's the regular Cyclops. Here's the Seeker Cyclops. It's level 10. And the Great Cyclops. It's level 12. They've got one. Cool. Now we have a better comparison. Go back. Look at that. So, now that we got a level 12 Greater Cyclops, I don't even need to extrapolate anything. We can compare it directly to what we've already built. Okay. Thank you for pointing that out. We're learning things today. Okay, so looking at the Greater Cyclops, which is an even, or this should be an even fight for 4 people of the same level. Wait, higher on the page? Oh my goodness. It's right there. Okay, I'm having a special moment. Okay, it's a special moment. We're having a special day. It is kind of cool though. If I click on this, does it just give me like different stats? It does. It does give me different stats. Cool. Okay, let's just look at the normal one then. That's interesting. Alternative stats for these things. I've done that before. I've made elite versions. Now they've got it kind of baked in. That's nice. Okay, anyway, armor class of 32. Armor class of 32. And PC's in. Hello, PC. Morning. Talking about yourself at the moment, I see. Yes, I am the Great Cyclops. You wouldn't know it by looking at me because I do still have 2 eyes, but only one of them works, so I guess that makes me like a bicyclops? I'm not even sure. Anyway, AC of 32. Again, going back to look at our characters before. So, looking at the fighter. The fighter has, under the melee attacks, an attack bonus of 19 for pretty much everything except for the advanced, which is only a 17. However, keeping in mind that some of the class features that we took, like weapon specialization and the fighter weapon mastery, give us an expert in whatever it is that we picked, which I took flails because I was using a whip. So that's going to be another +2 to the attacks that I'm making with that. So if I'm using that, I can treat that as being basically a +21. So here's how we look at this then. My fighter's getting a +21 on its attack. The Cyclops has an AC of 32. 32 minus 21 is 11, which means that we need a roll of an 11 to hit. And that's good. That is roughly a 50 or a 45% chance to actually hit. And that's good. That's really good design right there. I mean, it's basically a coin toss, and now it's up to you to try and tilt the odds better in your favor. My problem comes in that, technically speaking, my wizard has basically the same chance to hit too. And that doesn't feel right. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that the wizard is that capable in melee combat. Mind you, my wizard has less hit points, but quite frankly, the armor class is almost as good, so what does it matter? Speaking of armor class, what about the reverse? This thing has a melee great club with a plus 25 attack. Plus 25. That means that, well, if the fighter has an armor class of 25, okay, because we did this. Okay, for light armor, it's going to be 20, same as everything else, but plus 3 from wearing leather armor, plus 2 with the shield up, means that we've got a 25 armor class. Swinging the great club, or for that matter, the horn attack or the unarmed attack, they're all plus 25. My wizard, if it's in melee combat, is getting hit. Okay, that's fine. I would expect that. My fighter, if it's in melee combat, is getting hit. There's not even a choice here. If I were to play this, rules as written, the only way that the Cyclops misses my fighter is if it rolls a 1. Now, I think we need to stop for a moment and talk about philosophy for a moment. Because in my extensive talks with ChatGPT trying to understand this game, and it's been a great help actually, I've had to double check literally everything it says because you cannot trust anything that ChatGPT says outright. It actually has been really accurate though. And everything that it has said has lined up. Apparently, the philosophy in 2nd edition has been more centered around critical effects, where it's not just so much as whether you get hit or don't get hit. It's going to be a matter of how badly do you get hit? And it's supposed to go both ways. How badly do you get hit, and how badly do you hit them? Looking at the Great Club, like I said, a plus 25 means that the fighter is getting hit no matter what. First off, I really have a problem with guaranteed hits. That's a me problem, mostly, but it's a problem that I have because I think it skews the game too much. But then you're going to roll the dice. Keep in mind that critical effects in 2nd edition trigger on a multitude of things, not just a natural 1 or 20. If you fail or exceed a roll by 10 or more, that is a critical effect. So, technically speaking, remember how this thing has an AC of 32? And we determined that the fighter needs to roll an 11 or better. Okay, that's actually a really bad example because 11 minus 10 is a 1. If you roll a 1, it's a critical failure regardless. But you understand the idea. If we were using my wizard, who only has like a plus 17, 32 minus 17 would be 25, 15. So if I were to roll a 5 on with my wizard in melee combat, because my wizard would be stupid, that would be considered a critical failure. Now, I don't know if there's anything that would happen because of that, but if there's any kind of feat, class ability, whatever, that triggers on an incoming critical failure, guess what? That would happen. At the same time, any time that an attack value would go 10 over an armor class, anytime that, an attack value would go over 10 over your armor class, that would be a critical hit. Well, let's look at the Greater Cyclops. A Great Club plus 25, if the fighter only has an AC of 25, if the Cyclops rolls a 10 or higher, that's a critical effect. That's a crit. And I mean, hold on a second. Piercing critical, improved critical. Let's see if I can get there from here. Weapon improvisation, dedication. No, this belongs to an archetype. This is not what I want. Critical, let's see, critical specialization, debilitation, fusion, critical hits. Okay. Whenever you strike with a weapon or an unarmed attack, succeed with a natural 20, or the result exceeds an AC by 10, you achieve a critical success, also known as a critical hit. If you strike critically, your attack deals double damage. So, and then I believe weapons also come with, some weapons come with additional critical effects. MG was saying, if your stats are low, even a 20 may not save you, it looks like. Well, actually, yes and no, and that's part of the big problem that I have. Because of the way things are made, and I was using my own personal character as an example. See, this is the wizard that I built on stream. Okay? This is the wizard that I built on stream, and we all sat down, we all built this together. I built another wizard, okay? Because I didn't really like the way this one came out, and this was never going to be, like, my personal character. Why am I rubbing the screen? You can't see this, okay? This is never going to be my character. Let me show you my character, because my character is ridiculous. When I had time to really sit down and go through every single feat, every single skill, everything, period, my character came out being an absolute monster. So, for just a moment, let me show you the actual level 12 Shadowcat. Okay? It looks very similar, but there's some additional stuff on here. This character is very much my illusionist, okay? Built as closely as I could get it to my Pathfinder 1 character. Maybe even a little bit better, but we'll get to that. Now, by and large, most of the stats haven't changed that much. All the skills, more or less the same, except that for one thing. I specialized in deception. Really specialized in deception. Why did I do that? Well, I need to go through a few things before we can go through all this. So, first things first, obviously, I specialized in Arcana, I specialize in deception. Specialized in Arcana because I'm a wizard, and specialized in deception because I'm gonna need it later. My spell DC is 26, which may be a little bit low. I may need to recheck my numbers because it's a lot of things have changed. I'm still changing things as I learn more. But illusionist, okay? Illusionist. At level 6, I got a general feat and I got a wizard feat. And JP says, a level 12 liar. Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. This is going to get unpleasant. So, level 6, I took predict weather. Why? Because I want to know if it's going to rain later. Also, because there wasn't a whole lot of feats that I wanted at that level. But, for a wizard feat, I took convincing illusion. What does convincing illusion do? Well, let me go show you. And this is going to thread in with what MG was saying, where if you even a natural 20 may not save you, it looks like. This is going to get unpleasant. Going to the wizard. going to Wizard Feats. Convincing illusion, where are you? There it is. Okay, let me pull this down for just a moment. Convincing illusion. So, it requires you to be an expert in deception, which is why I couldn't get it until level 6. The trigger is a creature succeeded but did not critically succeed at a perception check or will save to disbelieve an illusion from a spell that you cast. So keeping in mind that a critical success, they have to at least exceed my my DC by 10. Keep that in mind. We'll get back to it. So the requirements is that I am within 30 feet of the observer and the illusion, so it does require that I am close to it. However, you may use your deceptive skills to make your illusion seem even more real. Attempt a deception check against the target's perception DC. If you succeed, the target fails to disbelieve their illusion. That is going to be one of the crux abilities of this build. Okay? Even if they succeed, I get to make a reaction deception check to negate their success. Now, you might look at that and say, okay, well, that's fine, right? Sure, it's powerful. But what does that mean? What does that really mean? Well, let's get into what does that mean, because it means something significant. We can go through everything else, and everything else is pretty normal. I took a lot of really good illusion spells and stuff like that. However, at level 12, because I really didn't have anything else to take at that level, I took Assurance in Deception. Also, when I was getting my skill upgrades, I took Master in Deception. So now my Deception is a plus 21. Assurance, because Take 10 is now gated behind a feat, I took Assurance Deception, which means that now, in any circumstances, I can just take 10 on my Deception skill. Now, let's go ahead and put all of this together. For starters, whenever I cast an illusion spell, you have to roll against my spell DC, which I need to recalculate because I don't even know if this is appropriate. Spell DC is going to be my intelligence, which is a plus 4. So that's 4. Then I'm an expert in it, so that's my level plus 4. That's 16. This should be a 30, actually. That should be a 30. And spell attack is going to be also my intelligence plus my proficiency, so this should be a plus 20. And my class DC should be an expert, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it should be an expert. That should be 32. I don't care right now. The point is, the spell DC is 30. Which means you need to roll against a DC of 30. And it has to be your will save. Now, your will save, like my will save is a plus 18, I think. I don't know. I got to go with my numbers again. But your DC is hopefully, similar. And if that's the case, you need to roll a 12 or higher. Okay, you need to roll a 12 or higher on the D20 to disbelieve my illusion. That is a 40% success rate. All right, let's make a note here. Let's make a note right here, okay? I'm just going to delete this, but... So, spell is going to be a 40% success rate. But, now, keep in mind, because I have convincing illusions... Okay, because I have convincing illusions, if you succeed, but do not roll a natural 20 or exceed it by 10, which You're not exceeding a DC 30 by 10. Not unless you are like level 20, at which point I have made some serious mistakes. You have to roll against, or I have to make a deception check against your perception. Well, my passive perception is a 29. And I use passive perception because, well, I mean, perception DC is basically just taking 10 on your perception. That's 29. That's my perception. Yours might be a little bit better. Very well could be worse. Probably is worse. Because perception is not a skill, you can't just make yourself a master in perception. It happens automatically along the way. So, it's going to be your passive perception versus my, because of assurance, passive deception, which is a 31. Which means that it's no longer a roll, it's just deception DC of 31. So, either you have a 20, or what is it? You would need, let's see, it's going to be minus 10, no, plus 10. Yeah, you would either need to have a 21 in perception, or you don't. That's it. It's not even a roll. It's not a dice roll. You either have a DC 21 in perception, or you don't. And if you don't, my illusions automatically succeed. So this is where I get back into the whole, if your stats are low, even a 20 may not save you, it looks like. A natural 20 could, but we're not rolling dice for this, okay? Because I have assurance, I can't roll a natural 1. Because I have assurance. It's assured. So what does that mean now? Well, that means that I can cast an illusion, right? Well, if this was Pathfinder 1, yeah, I cast an illusion. But we're not playing Pathfinder 1. Why don't we take a look at just one, of my illusions? We're going to go for arcane spells. I'm going to sort by illusion. I'm going to come down to level 6. We're going to look at Phantasmal Calamity. And let me go ahead and move this back down. Mind you, remember, I've already cast the illusion. You've already probably failed the will save to disbelieve it. But even if you succeeded the will save to disbelieve it, you probably failed my deception check because it's static. Oh, and Blizz has to go. Well, Blizz, I'm sorry that we're losing you, but it was good to have you here. Thank you for coming, and I hope I'll see you next week. So you take care. Okay, getting back to the absolute madness that is Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Keeping in mind, you probably failed the will save, you probably also just failed against my static deception. Welcome to Phantasmal Calamity. A vision of apocalyptic destruction fills the mind of each creature in the area. It is a 30-foot burst. Okay? A 30-foot burst. That means, as far as I understand, a 30-foot radius. So pick the corner of a square, and then measure 6 squares out in all directions. There's no limit on the number of creatures, by the way. Like, there's a lot of spells that used to say, affects up to 5 people, or something like that. No, there's no limit. It's everybody in the area. The vision deals 11d6 mental damage with a basic will save that, again, you probably just failed. On a critical failure, the creature must also succeed a reflex save or believe it's trapped. If it fails the second will save, the second save, the reflex save, it's also stunned for 1 minute. It can attempt a new will save at the end of each turn, and on a success, it disbelieves the illusion and recovers from the normal stunned condition. But again, because of my spell DC being 30, and because of my assurance and deception, that's 11d6, and this lasts for one... hold on, how long does this last? It's also stunned. Range 500 feet, areas a 30-foot burst, defenses will... I guess it only lasts for like one round. No. Critical failure succeed. How long does this last? Why is this missing from the spell? Why am I not seeing this? Deals that much on a critical failure. Also believe it's stuck. Fails its will save. It's also stunned for 1 minute. Can attempt a will save at the end of each of its turns, and on a success it disbelieves the illusion, recovers from the stun condition. How long does it last, though? Can't last forever. I'm gonna check the legacy version. 500 feet, 30-foot burst, 76 mental damage. I have to assume that it lasts for a minute, because that's the stunned duration. It's a concentrate spell. Does it simply... No, because it doesn't... I have no idea. But let's go ahead and just assume that it lasts for a minute, okay? Let's assume it lasts for a minute. I don't know. I'll have to look it up later. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. The point being, 11d6 mental damage. Let's say it does last for a minute. That is 11d6 damage for 10 rounds. And because of my spell DC being naturally high because I'm a wizard, and because of assurance, you're not getting out of it. It is an all but guaranteed murder. JP said it. It feels like assurance kind of takes away from the game. Removing even the possibility of failure is boring and overpowered. I know. That's why I'm complaining about it. So, the very fact that, like, we're talking about removing the possibility of failure, I want to go back to the Great Cyclops over here. My wizard can take an entire 60-foot diameter circle and plunge everybody into apocalyptic visions of the end of the world and kill everybody. I mean, think about it. 11d6. That is a maximum of 66 damage. If we were to maintain that for a full minute, that is a maximum of 660 damage. Now, that would be, like, astronomically incomprehensible. But a maximum of 660 damage, a minimum, because it's 11d6 per round. That is a minimum of 110 damage if you rolled all ones, which is also astronomically incomprehensible. It's a guaranteed murder. Then we get back to the Cyclops. The Cyclops is a plus 25 on its attacks. All of its attacks! Except for the range attack, which is a plus 23. There is now a 10% chance that maybe it misses. And 5% of that 10% was a guarantee because it had to be a natural 1. Which means that if you rolled a 10, or if the Cyclops rolls a 10 or higher, it's an automatic critical hit. Which means that the 3d10 plus 13 bludgeoning damage becomes a 6d10 plus 26. 60-10 plus 26. 60-10. If I can do my math right, it's going to be 60 minus 6. There's a mathematical equation for doing these averages, but it's 60 minus 6 is 54 divided by 2 is 27, rounding up, so about 28 damage. 28 plus 26 is 54. So yeah, right back to 54 damage again. Yeah, 54 damage that is all but guaranteed. Now, yeah, the fighter can use their shield to absorb some of that, but I mean, you're gonna be killing your character here. And JP says, what is assurance versus the wish spell? Does the game implode into a singularity? No, it does not. You want to know why? Come here, come closer. Come here. Lean in just a little bit. They removed the wish spell. No, I'm not joking. They removed wish. There's no wish. If I come back here to spells, okay? I'm going to come back here to spells. Because I went ahead and I looked forward, because I'm a wizard and I love my high level spells. Do you see this? 9th level spells. Okay? I'm familiar with 9th level spells, and there's a lot of stuff in here that kinda makes sense. Like Massacre is in here. Massacre was in 1st edition as well. It's a straight up kill spell. Telepathic Demand, all kinds of stuff like that. Then 10th rank spells. What even is a 10th rank spell? I don't know. But looking at the 10th rank spells, what do we got? Hold on. Freeze time. That's time stop. That used to be a level 9 spell. Gate. Okay, you want to see some you want to see some bullshit? How about we look at some bullshit? All right, I'm not even going to pretend here. I'm mad. Let's go to arcane spells. Let's go all the way down to level 9 spells and show you just how nerfed this has gotten. So level 9 spells, we had a bunch of them. Under Conjuration, we have Gate. Now, let's look at the 1st edition one. Gate has 2 effects. Alright? 2 effects. Now let's keep in mind, they did the same thing with Telekinesis. Telekinesis used to have 3 effects. You could move an object, you could perform a combat maneuver, or you could throw stuff. They split that into 3 different spells now. So, Gate has 2 effects. Number 1, it creates an interdimensional connection between your plane of existence and a plane you specify, allowing travel between those 2 planes in either direction. And Tux is in. Hey, Tux. Lurking on the job. Good job. So, Gate has a very obvious effect. If you wanted to travel to, say, the astral plane or the celestial planes or wherever, you open up a gateway. It lasts for 1 minute per level, or as long as you want to keep it open. And you can move people through. The gate itself is a disc 5 to 20 feet in diameter, which is large enough to move some, like, small wagons and stuff. You can move some animals through there too, like horses. But you can move people to and from. Or secondly, and this is the important part, you may then call a particular individual or kind of being through the gate. Let's look at that second one. The second effect of the gate spell is to call an extraplanar creature to your aid, which is a calling effect. By naming a particular being or kind of being as you cast the spell, you cause the gate to open in the immediate vicinity of the desired creature and pull the subject through, willing or unwilling. Deities and unique beings are under no compulsion to come through the gate, although they may choose to do so if or of their own accord. So it's a little bit hard to really parse that, because what do you mean by a unique being? I'm a unique being. I'm pretty sure if somebody casts Gate, I could not stop them from compelling me. Anyway, the use of the spell creates a gate that remains open just long enough to transport the called creature. The use of this spell has a material cost of 10,000 gold pieces in rare incense and offerings. The cost is in addition to any cost that must be paid to the called creatures. So, here's the thing. If you choose to call a kind of creature, you may call either a single or several of them. In either case, their total hit dice cannot exceed twice your caster level. But the idea here is really simple. You can actually use the spell to beseech a higher power. Not necessarily a deity, although it does say deities and unique beings are under no compulsion to come through the gate, but it doesn't say that you cannot open the gate in their presence. You can still do so and ask. Which, do you realize what that means? The Wish spell allows you to reshape reality. The Miracle spell is just the divine version of Wish because you're asking for divine intervention. But if you use the Gate spell, you can literally open a portal into the presence of a god and ask them directly. They are under no compulsion to actually do it, but you can. So, let's go back to Pathfinder 2 and look at the gate. You tear open a rift to another plane. It lasts for up to a minute. Just a minute. Gate over here lasts for 1 round per level, which means that by the time you're level 17, that's over a minute. This one doesn't even last that long. It's larger. It has a radius of 40 feet. Ooh. A portal appears at the location of your choice in the destination plane, assuming you have a clear idea of both your location and destination. If you attempt to create a gate into or out of a realm of a deity or similarly powerful being, that being can simply prevent the gate from forming. They nerfed it. Like they nerfed so very many things. What else did they have in here? Cataclysm, no. Indestructibility was in here. There's 10th rank spells, and they've nerfed like everything. Oh, here's one that I'm personally offended by. Unspeakable Shadow. You alter a creature's shadow, transforming it into a terrifying monster out to devour the creature. The creature must attempt a will save. Which, by the way, remember what I was just talking about with my character being an illusionist? You must attempt a will save. I'm not going to get this until I'm like level 17. At which point, take my will save, or my spell DC, excuse me, and add another 9 points to it. Because I'll be 7 levels higher. No, wait, not 7 points. No, 7 points, yes. I'll be 5 levels higher, plus I'll probably be a master in spell DC. So from a DC 30 to a DC 37. Then, I have Assurance and Deception, which also probably went up by 5 to 7 points. If they fail the will save, they gain the Frightened condition, and spend at least one of its actions to either attack its own shadow or flee from its own shadow. If it's a critical success, they're unaffected, and I can't do anything about that. Critical success wins. If they simply succeed, I get to use my my assurance and deception, which means that they're probably going to fail. They're frightened or they get frightened 3 and they cannot reduce their frightened value below 1. And on a critical failure, they are so afraid it might instantly die. It must succeed a fortitude save or die. This save throw has the incapacitation trait. If it succeeds, it is frightened 4 and can't reduce its frightened value. Here's the thing about that. That's a level 9 spell. Wait, there it was. That's Phantasmal Killer. It used to be a level 4 spell. It used to be level 4. Now it's level 9. For a spell that requires multiple saving throws to even function properly. And you know what? The level 4 spell still did damage. The level 4, even if the fortitude save is successful, they take 3d6 points of damage. The level 9 Unspeakable Shadow does no damage. They're frightened. And they have to flee. By the way, frightened just means that you take the status penalty equal to the value on all your checks and DCs. Unless otherwise specified, at the end of your turn, the value of the frightened condition decreases by 1. Well, it can't go below 1 because of this spell. But it doesn't even do DC. They made it 5 whole spell levels higher, removed the damage, and it still requires 2 failures to actually be lethal, and one of them has to be a critical failure now. If it's not a critical failure, it's not even threatening. It's just scary. It is one of the worst nerfs I have found in this game to date. But, getting back to level 10, Cataclysm, Conquering Soldiers, Dragon Turret, Fated Confrontation, Freeze Time, Gate, Indestructibility, Jasim's Allegiance, Manifestation. We'll get to that in a moment. Nullify, Planar Collision, Remake, Shadow Army, and Veil the Broken Reality. That's the level 10 spells, which are only available to a completely committed wizard. Now, MG said, the most recent book released, Impossible Magics, they added a small selection of new spells called the Impossible Spells. They are spells you can only cast once ever for your character. I'll have to look into that. I don't know that one. And JP says, so basically roll for jump scare. Yeah, it's a level 9 jump scare. That's going to give you a penalty on your rolls because you're frightened. Level 9. Now, how does it get any better? Well, remember what you said, MG, when you said earlier that it sounds like even a 20 might not save you if you have low stats. That's not entirely true because a natural 20 always critically succeeds. But even though Unspeakable Shadow was completely nerfed, realize that what the critical failure means. If you fail the critical failure, or if you get the critical failure, which again, the DC for this should be, I believe I said 37. That means that anybody who has a will save of 17 or less is physically incapable of rolling high enough. Okay? Okay, let's write this down a little bit. Let's write this down. Okay. So again, I'm assuming that I get this level 17. which means I'm adding 5 to the spell DC here, but it's probably going to be masters, so yeah. So spell, oops, caps lock, spell DC 37. Now, taking away the natural 20 that you would need, okay, take away the natural 20, which always succeeds, that leaves us with a will of 17. If you have a will save of 17 or less, you are incapable of rolling above a critical failure. Which means that every single time I cast this spell on somebody, if they have a lower will save than that 17, they then have to make a reflex. Now, is the reflex under this or the same DC? Or no, wait, reflex, fortitude save, excuse me, fortitude save. It must exceed a fortitude save or die. This saving throw has the incapacitation trait. It does not say that it is a flat roll, so you still get to make your same fortitude saving throw, but again, that means that you then need a fortitude of 17. Because again, spell DC 37. I'm looking at my own stats here, and if it was cast on my character as they are now, my character has a 5% chance at level 12. A 5% chance to succeed the will save, and a 0% chance to succeed the fortitude save. And by the way, JP, you had mentioned above that assurance, or it feels like assurance takes away from the game by removing even the possibility of failure. This doesn't take assurance into consideration. This is just the flat spell DC. Okay? The only time assurance would actually come in is if you succeeded that first will save, and now I get to use my assurance to make sure that you're still frightened. This is basically just guaranteed kill at that point. And it's a guaranteed kill for a level 12 character. I mean, I don't have any like equipment or anything on, so maybe you could have things that will basically boost your will save, like a ring of iron will or stuff like that. There's feats you could take, other things, but the point remains. There is a point where the only thing that is going to succeed is a natural 20. Similarly, this great Cyclops over here, the only way it's missing is on a 1. The only way it's missing is on a 1. And JP says it feels wrong. Yeah, it does feel wrong. I have a huge problem with this. Now, I do have a solution that I have used before for some of this. Now, for example, the Cyclops over here. If I was going to make the Cyclops go. Okay, I'm just going to delete this. I'm going to jump over to a fresh sheet here. Here's what I would do. So, Cyclops. It's got a great club plus 25. All right? Now, that means normally what we would do is we would take the great club and we would roll 1d20 plus 25. Okay, that's standard roll. By the way, MG, pay attention here. I'm going to give you a piece of advice. You're going to like this. The Cyclops right now is absolutely lethal. It's like 100% lethal, unless you can figure out some way to mitigate that. I want to make it less lethal. Not harmless, but less lethal. This is what I have done in my other games. We already have an attack bonus for this thing. So here's what we can do. Instead of using a flat bonus, which is a guaranteed attack, we're going to do this. We're going to roll 1d20 plus 1d25. Okay? Now, this only works if you're using virtual dice. For example, I use the service Roll20. Roll20 is an online service. It is free. I pay for it, but it is a free service. And it allows you to go ahead and make maps, play games, roll dice. It's fantastic if you're not using Roll20. Here. I'm just going to put that right there so everyone can see it. Alright, if you're not using Roll20, go use it. But since it allows you to use virtual dice, we can roll a 1d20 plus a 1d25. What does this do? By making the bonus variable, we have now made it so that it is possible. It's possible for the Cyclops to actually miss. And I'm going to show an example of that. I'm going to come over here and we're going to go to actual Roll20. I've got it right here. Remember how I said Roll20 is great? Check it out. It's right here. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to change my dice color here real quick. But if we were rolling the Great Club as it is, so Cyclops, Great Club, static. 1d20 plus 25, and we're looking to exceed an armor class of 25 because that's the fighter that we made. I rolled a 16. That's not just a hit. That is a critical hit. That's a crit. Which means that we are now going to be rolling, what did it say? 3d10 plus 13? Yeah, 3d10 plus 13, but because it's doubled, 6d10 plus 26. That is 59 points of damage. Okay? How much HP how much HP did we have? 176. That is that's almost one. I think it is. No, it's over 1/3. It's over 1/3 of our HP in one hit. Are we dead? No, we're not dead. However, a few more of those, and we will be. So watch this. So we're gonna go Cyclops, Great Club, variable. 1d20 plus 1d25. I rolled a 6 and a 2. Which means that the Cyclops swung its Great Club and it missed. That was impossible before. But because the Cyclops rolled poorly on both dice, now it can actually miss. Which is great. I think that's appropriate. Why should it get a guaranteed hit every single time? Now, I am not suggesting that you make your players do this. Your players deserve to have every single advantage. Okay? They really do. Your job as the GM is to make sure that the game keeps going. Your job isn't to win. Your job isn't to kill the players. Your job is to tell the story. And so, anything that basically makes the story end is usually bad. Now, that is not to say that every story has a happy ending. Players will die. But you have to make sure that when the players die, it's because of their actions. Okay? They started the fight. They made the wrong decision. They opened the wrong door. It's got to be their fault that they lost. Because if it's your fault that they lost, then it's not fair. I recently, in our Star Trek game, had a character who just died. And let's work things backwards here. They died because of a disease. And they died because they failed their saves. Now that on its own doesn't seem like it's a really good thing. It doesn't seem that fair, right? I mean, I told them, roll fortitude, they failed, they died. But let's travel backwards. Before they had to make the fortitude save, they first had to be exposed to the disease. The disease was radiation sickness. In order to get radiation sickness, they first had to be exposed to radiation. They were exposed to radiation because they went to an irradiated planet. And they went to the irradiated planet because they chose to explore. So the fact that the character died was the result of their own choices. And there were multiple attempts along the way for them to save themselves. But it always has to be their choice. It always has to be their option, which means that they also equally always have the choice to stay alive. Choice is what makes the tabletop games special, and the choice always has to remain with the players. Which is what makes so much of 2E feel wrong. It makes so much of the choice, or at least it makes so much of what feels like the choice in the game feel like it's already predetermined. The Cyclops with the Great Club, my illusion spells that are guaranteed kills. It removes the choice. Now, this Cyclops missed. If I roll this again, that is still technically a miss. But here's where it gets really fun. 21. Let's keep in mind that armor class of 21 is integrating a lot of factors. Number one, it's a base 10. So coin toss whether they get hit or not. After that, it's their dexterity and their proficiency. And I'm not even sure how to really describe proficiency. Their dexterity means that, it would have hit them, but they dodged it. Then we have to add in their proficiency, which I guess proficiency also falls into the category of dodge, because it's definitely not your armor bonus. So for my fighter, the 12 plus 4 would be 16, is the dodge chance. And so there's that. Actually, no, did I calculate this right? Let me think about this. I did this right. So yeah, it's already factored in. So everything up to up to the 20 mark is. Actually, no, hold on, I gotta go check that now. Did I do this right? I gotta check. Armor class. This might actually get worse now. Armor class before items. So it is going to be 4 plus level is 16 plus proficiency is 20. Oh my goodness. I did forget something. Hold on. Okay, this actually changes things. I forgot. Armor class is a base 10. I forgot that armor class is a base 10. So these should actually all be 10 higher. I forgot the base 10. This is an armor class bonus, not the actual armor class. So 30, 35, 30, 30. That changes things a little bit. Not much, though. Okay, by changing this, I've now reduced the Great Club attack from a 100% chance hit to a 50% chance hit. That's actually better. That's actually better now. Again, that is with the that's with the leather armor here. It's with the shield. Yeah, I forgot to add that in. Okay, so yeah. That makes it a little bit better. That makes it a little bit better. And JP says the Cyclops doesn't have depth perception, that they should have a penalty to hit. You know what? I'm a Cyclops, and I actually have really good aim. It's kind of crazy. I still would not change the variable part of it. Well, maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't. I'm not even sure. 50% chance to hit is still... It's good. It's good. We could go back to this and just say, okay. The Static Great Club, if we do this again, that's still a hit. I rolled a 16 again. So you're still getting hit. The only difference is that now, because the armor class that we're going for is 35, it's now not a critical hit. It's not a critical hit now. So take the number that we rolled up here, the 59, we can cut that in half. So that's only going to be 29. That's still significant, but it's far less significant. Now, does that mean that the variable roll was wrong? No, it's really not. And it's not because we can still use that for higher level things. And I have before. I had my players go up against a level 14 character while they were level 4, which should have been like a guaranteed kill. But because I used variable attack bonuses, they took a lot of hits, but they also managed to get out of that one alive. So it's still a good rule, just I forgot to add one bonus, and that was a very important bonus. So we're looking at a 50% chance for them to hit. I'm looking at like a 45-ish% chance for the fighter to hit. It's basically a coin toss, which means that, yeah, it should be a relatively decent fight. I'm good with it. I'm good with it. However, I do still have a problem. And that's when I come over here and I look at my wizard. Oh, yeah. I also forgot to add the 10 over here, which means that my wizard has a 30 in unarmored defense, and a 14 in light, 14 in medium, and 14 in heavy, because I can't actually get any armor bonuses from those because I can't wear them. But the point remains, 30 armor class for a wizard! That's before casting any spells. That's before casting anything. Oh my god. Why are the armor classes so high for just everybody? I mean, I assume it's because they want to make sure that everything is balanced and equal, but like, if this is all you want to do, then just start flipping coins. It runs, though. It does run. And then we can come up here and there's the elite version. What's the elite version look like? It's just a +2 to these, so 10% more. So instead of it being a 50% chance to hit, it's now a 60% chance to hit. It's not that big a deal. Okay, I'm good. I wonder. I'm curious about something now. So that's monsters, and that's how the monsters stack up. And JP says gym rats and wizard hats. I'll put that on a t-shirt. I wonder, do they have anything on traps in here? Afflictions, hazards? Dungeons are rife with devious traps meant to protect treasures within. These range from mechanical devices that shoot darts or drop heavy blocks to magic runes that explode into bursts of flame. So yeah, hazards or traps. Do they have levels? They do have levels. Perfect. Let's find something that's level appropriate. I want to see what the traps look like. Polymorph trap, no. Call the void. Flensing blades? Okay. Let's look. A whirling tornado of spectrally propelled glass and steel slices whatever it touches to ribbons. So, let's look at, what these look like and see if these match up. So, a DC 35 to thievery. Well, I didn't make a rogue character. However, a rogue would treat thievery the same way that a wizard would treat arcana, and I happen to be a wizard. So, when I look at arcana, I have like a plus 22. I can only assume that a rogue would have a similar thievery skill, which means a DC 35 is probably going to be basically a coin toss. I mean, if this was an arcana, I'm looking at 35 minus 22 is 13, so it's like a 35% chance success. Or DC 38 religion to weaken the haunt. Oh, now that's interesting. 4 successes are required to disable it. Now that's something that we never saw in 1E. Multiple successes in order to disable something. At least I never used that. I like it though. It has an armor class for some reason, as well as saves, which doesn't make much sense. A hardness of 20, 100 hit points, it's immune to critical hits, precision damage. Whirling blades on trigger, 3 or more creatures enter... Oh, the trigger is 3 or more creatures enter the area of the haunt. Now that's interesting. If 3 or more creatures enter the area of the haunt, it takes effect. That means that if only 2 or less did, it wouldn't. So the routine is a tornado that uses 3 actions to move, traveling up to 30 feet with each action. And then, of course, successes and failures. This... let's see. It's a level 12 hazard. A level 12 character could do it. I say could because, well, if I was using my arcana, that's only like a 35% chance. That's low odds, but it is a trap. I'm looking for more like a physical trap, though. The Flensing Blades is a haunt. I'm looking for, like, just not magic. Trump of the Oliphant. Another mythic thing. Complex trap, mechanical. Telekinetic swarm trap? It says mechanical, but it's telekinetic. Alright, let's take a look. It's complex. 3 innocuous decorations installed with instilled with telekinetic magic pull objects and pieces of the room itself into spinning clouds of debris that attack all the creatures in the room. That doesn't sound very mechanical. It sounds very magical. What's mechanical about it? DC 27 thievery. JP says, does it have caltrops? Caltrops aren't going to be well, actually, no. Caltrops are an item, but once you deploy them, I think they qualify as a trap. Let me go all the way up, because they're not going to be high. Locking door, mirror door, phantom footsteps, blah, 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 blah. Reflected desires, point as a hub. Quicksand, final words. Alright, let me try a search. Caltrops are not listed here in the hazards. Alright, let me check equipment then, because they will absolutely qualify as a trap once they're deployed. Yeah, here we go, caltrops. Yeah, they're level 0 equipment. You can pick these up basically anywhere. 4-pronged metal spikes can damage a creature's foot. You can scatter caltrops in an empty square adjacent to you as an interact action. The first creature that moves into it must succeed a DC 14 acrobatics check or take 1d4 piercing damage and 1 persistent bleed damage. A creature taking persistent bleed damage from caltrops has a -5 foot penalty to its speed. Spending an interact action to pluck the caltrops free reduces the DC to stop the bleeding. Once a creature takes damage from caltrops, enough are ruined that other creatures moving through the area are safe. Deployed caltrops can be salvaged and reused if no creatures took damage from them. Otherwise, enough are ruined they can't be salvaged. Okay, so caltrops are not really considered a trap anymore and more considered a weapon. However, the point remains, yes, we still have caltrops. I, in general, like the way the traps work. I think these work well. The DCs seem fair. The mechanics of them seem fair. I want to say just like a typical, like normal, here's a spear launcher. This is a classic one. All it does is it simply has a spear in waiting, and once it triggers, it launches a spear. DC of 18, must be trained in thievery, on the floor tile or wall socket. It's got an AC, fortitude, and reflex for some reason. Hardness and hit points makes sense. The trigger is pressure applied to a floor tile. It shoots the spear, making a strike against the creature or object on the floor tile. Now, does that mean it has to make it... I think it needs to make an attack roll. Yeah, it's an attack roll. So the ranged attack is spear plus 14, and the damage is 2d6 plus 6. For a level 2 hazard, a level 2 trap, yeah, I like it. It's good. It's exactly what I want from a trap. It's got a stealth DC, which is good. They've rolled the concealment for traps right into the stealth mechanic. That's fine. It even gives a description, so you as the GM don't have to worry about that. I like it. There's also weather hazards in here. Click here for the full rules on weather hazards. Maybe we'll look at that. Fog, heavy downpour, cold snap, windstorm, hailstorm, wildfire, subsistence, blizzard, supernatural storm, flash flood, thunderstorm, and tornado. So this is just weather. This was added in Kingmaker. They didn't have weather before? Okay. I have my own weather systems that I use, but I can integrate this into my games. What does it say about a heavy downpour? Because this is the only thing they give for just like rain. The clouds above darken and a significant amount of precipitation unloads over the region. It's 24 hours of rain. Rain or snow continues to fall all day, making those caught out in the elements cold and wet. As long as the heavy downpour lasts, perception takes a -1 Just a -1? Causes creatures that are further from 100 foot away to be concealed, and cuts off all visibility at half a mile or more. Well, I mean, I guess, since we're just hard stopping some of these, anything 100 feet away is concealed completely, so forget your perception check, and anything a mile or more, or half a mile or more away has no visibility at all. So your perception check takes a -1 penalty, but you're only allowed to use your perception check at less than 100 feet. During a heavy downpour, other storms tend to be more severe. The DC of skill checks made to survive, prepare, or endure the routine of a blizzard, severe hailstorm, supernatural storm, thunderstorm, or windstorm increase by 2 during a heavy downpour. Rivers tend to rise during heavy downpours. Shallow points to cross rivers become too deep to ford and remain so for 1d4 days after the event. So, yeah, I guess they want you to mix and match them, which I'm good with. The funny thing is, and I'm gonna grab something here. I made for my Gene Stealer game a weather system. It's nothing too complicated. However, I will show it. So copy and come over here to this blank one. Paste. And let me just make some adjustments here. I want optimal width. Okay, so here's the idea behind the weather system that I generated, or I created for Starfinder 1st edition. Now, I went ahead and used their own environmental rules. I just had to add to them a little bit. Since the Gene Stealer game will be played primarily underground, I needed not just rules for overland, I needed for underground as well. But let's take a look. So first off, when generating a day, we have clear, overcast, and precipitation, because that's basically the only weather. In fact, Starfinder doesn't really care whether there's clouds or not in the sky. Daylight is daylight. That's about it. It's either light or twilight or dark. And whether there's clouds in the sky are meaningless. Precipitation, however, it does have. And the precipitation is either rain, heavy rain, or storms. I added drizzle and fog just because fog does exist. It's just not considered part of the precipitation. It's considered its own entity. I added it into rainfall. The temperature rules exist because, of course, they do. And the temperature rules seem a little bit weird until you keep in mind exactly what they're doing. Like, looking at the summer, extreme heat is a temperature of 140 degrees plus. Now, some people might point out that temperatures of 140 degrees have only really been measured in places like Death Valley. But we have to keep in mind that those are temperatures in the shade. If you have ever worked construction, you know that if you're out there working on like a road or something, you could be standing in 140 degrees under the sun. You're adventurers. You're not sitting in the shade. And you can't see that. Hold on, let me move this up. Let's really just have a separate scene for this. So what we've got here, though, is we've got everything that we need for weather. Now, a lot of the rules are in the book. And so when I say that there's rain or there's wind, the rules are already in the book, and I can pull those up for what are all the perception penalties, what are the ranged attack penalties, things like that. what we've got here, however, in the weather hazards, all we're really showing here are fog, some rain, cold snap, I guess. It says for a cold snap, 24 plus hours, the temperature drops to an unusually low level. During spring and autumn, the temperature shifts to a mild cold. During winter, temperature shifts to a severe cold, during which unsheltered PCs take 1d6 cold damage per hour. If a blizzard takes place during a cold snap, the blizzard's temperature drops to an extreme cold, during which they take 2d6 cold damage every 10 minutes. So they do have some of this stuff. They have the cold snap, but I don't see anything for like a heat wave. There's a wildfire, but a wildfire is literally fire. So they don't really have rules for that. That's where like my system comes in. And by the way, it's a really good system. I would go ahead and say anybody who wants to, welcome to use it. And over here you can see what it does. You can actually create an entire forecast with it. I believe this was a spring. I believe this was a spring panel that I did. And so you can see how the weather changes every day. Overcast, heavy rain, clear, overcast, clear, heavy rain, clear days. Different modifiers for the wind in each day, because we can have heavy rain with no wind. We can have heavy rain with, storm force winds if we wanted. The temperature changes every day, so we've got heavy rain with temperate temperatures. We can have heavy rain with severe cold temperatures. We could even change that to snow if we wanted. Since it is severe cold, I could go ahead and change this to heavy snow just as easily. And then, of course, coverage. Why is there a coverage? Why coverage? Because when you read it, or just in case you were unaware of this, when you read or see the weather forecast and it says that there's like a 29% chance of rain, understand that doesn't mean a 29% chance that rain just happens. It means that 29% of the forecasted area is expected to get rain. So, when your PCs are entering into an area, you can roll a D100% to determine whether the weather affects them. And otherwise, it can be just clear or overcast, up to you. These hazards over here are doing like a partial job of this, but it could be better, I think. This could be better. But I don't mean that it could be better in that it's bad. It's not bad. It just feels incomplete. It needs more. And, that's an easy thing. It could be done more, and they can add more to this later. And I would expect them to. I hope they do. I really do. Just add more. That's the wonderful thing about this. You can always add more. Let's see. MG says, for a cave, I imagine some difficult terrain being implemented depending on the weather. Rainy season, lots of humidity, slippery rocks, mud puddles, and worst case, mudslides or collapsing ceiling. For a cave, sure. Caves don't usually get that much weather, though, because they're usually rather protected. In my case, however, because this is going to be a literal undercity, it's why I put in things like underground, all precipitation is doubled. Because that's where all the water's going to run to. If my players are in the sewers and such, then if rain falls and it drops 2 inches of rain underground, that's going to be 2 inches of water. So if they have to cross a sewer, well, then there you go. Now, because running water is very dangerous, The crossing DC for water is the number of inches times 4, which means for 2 inches of water, it's a DC 8, which is not a big deal. A DC 8 is fine, however, if you fail your DC, you get swept away by the water. However, it's 2 inches of water. It's not likely you're going to drown. That being said, though, if there's an actual storm or heavy rain, oh, look at this. I've got heavy rain here and heavy snow there. But the heavy rain is 2 inches of water. Well, 2 inches is then doubled underground, that's 4. And since the crossing is then times 4, it's now a DC 16. That's a swim check, by the way. That's a swim check. MG says, I have an inspiration. Have you ever played Hollow Knight? No, I have never played Hollow Knight, but I am aware of it. I am aware of it. It's not my kind of game. I'm not real good at the whole platformer thing. But I do know the game. I'm familiar with it. So what's the inspiration? Let me know. Okay. As for the rest of this, we've looked at equipment. We've looked at the bestiary. We've looked at a lot of the numbers. All in all, I do believe that I could run this game. It would maybe take me a few times, or a little bit, to get everything perfectly right, but I think that I could do it. Adventure-specific hazards. Oh, these are traps that came in with specific modules. Still, though, they're good. They're good. I don't use modules. So I would just use these however I felt, I felt useful. However, I like this. Unsafe stairs are considered a trap. DC 16 simple stealth. Rickety stairs, groan and strang alarmingly if a small or larger creature ascends them. I love this. Do you know why I love this so much? This is an environmental thing that you can use basically anywhere. The thing about traps, and this is something that is written in the Dungeon Master's Guide, if you ever sit down and read it. One of the rules for traps, and this is a constraint mostly on the GM, nobody ever places a trap where they themselves will fall into it. Which means that if you have a corridor and you put a trap in it, whoever owns the corridor is not going down that corridor. Not unless they have some assurance that the trap will never harm them. Which means that either they have the key to turn it off, they know where the lever is to disable it, or they have an alternate path to get around it. There is always, always, always a way through, a safe way through a trap. Because the person who made it is not going to get hit by it. Things like unsafe stairs, however, are things that you can use anywhere, in any campaign. This was not intentional, nobody put this here, this is just the circumstance of neglect. And I love that they give you all of the effects required for it. Any creature on the stairs, they fall and they take 2d6 plus 3 bludgeoning damage from the collapsing rubble. I love it. It's great. And then they had to figure out how do they get up where the stairs were going. It's fantastic design. I like it. PC says, what about rolling for Purple Rain? I mean, Purple Rain does show up, but only when Prince is in town. MG says, okay, then let me refer to a location. 90% takes place underground. However, just below the surface, there is a City of Tears. It drips rain underground because the lake sits on top of the city. Well, you can do that. You can absolutely do that. Here's the thing about that. Dripping water is not a mechanical effect. And this is something that you really need to differentiate. And it's something I'm still trying to teach ChatGPT. Okay? I'm trying to teach the AI. I'm not having a lot of luck. When I'm using the AI to help me work on a generator for something, it loves to throw in things like, well, you're in space. You're looking for space phenomena to help populate your universe. What about an aurora in space? Wouldn't that be cool? At which point I have to tell the AI, yes, it's very, very cool. It also very, very doesn't matter. Because if I put an aurora in, say, my Star Trek game, I can roll a day where the aurora shows up. And I can tell you exactly how this is going to go. At the beginning of the day, whoever happens to be watching sensors, I'm going to tell them that there is something on sensors. And then they're going to scan it. Because that's what you do. You scan things. They're going to scan it, and I'm going to tell them that it is an aurora in space. There is some kind of magnetic field here interacting with ambient radiation, creating a strange shifting aurora. My players will then ask, is it dangerous? The answer is no. They will then ask, is it helpful? And then I will tell them no. And then they're going to say, okay. Is it pretty? And I will tell them, yes, it's very pretty. Okay? And then they will say, that's really, really neat. Moving on. It's a nice little bit of flavor, but you do not need to add this mechanically into your game because it has no mechanical effect. This is one of those freebies. Like, if you wanted to put an aurora in space, you can just do it. You don't need to roll anything for this. You can just do it. Come here. Did you know that as the GM, you can just do things? Because you can do things. You don't need to ask permission. You don't need to justify it. You don't need to explain it. You can just do things. And sometimes you should. I mean, you can put a statue on the side of the road. It has no mechanical value. It's not a trap. It's not a bonus. You can give it a backstory if you want, but you can just put a statue on the side of the road. And I promise you, your players will stop at that statue. They will detail everything about it. Who is it? Is it a person? What race are they? Do they look like they have a class? How old is it? Does it have an inscription on it? Can we decipher the inscription? Hey, does anybody have a parchment and charcoal? Can we get a sketch of it? It has no mechanical value. But your players will love it, and you can just do it. But don't make it part of like your generator or any of your listings because you don't need it there. You can just do it. The same thing goes for your example from Hollow Knight. Just below the city of, or inside the City of Tears, you have an entire city underground where it is constantly dripping with water. I love it. It is a fantastic thing. Use that. What does it do for you? I'm gonna get rid of these things because I'm pretty much done here, but I'm not done talking. Use that to your advantage. Because it is the City of Tears, what does that make it look like? It means that everything is damp. Okay? Everything has this sheen of water that reflects any ambient light. Being that it's Hollow Knight, I'm going to assume torches or bioluminescent fungus, moss, whatever. So you have this sheen on everything that makes everything shiny. It reflects the little bit of light there is. What about the buildings? Every building has awnings on it. Why? To run the constant dripping of water away from the building and into the streets. Everyone wears cloaks with their hoods up, or they carry umbrellas just to keep the occasional drip of water off. There are little rivulets of water that move down the street, just, inside the gutter. It never ends. Not because it's full, but because the source of water is just never ending. There's nothing mechanical about this, and there doesn't need to be. You can make this a part of your descriptions and a part of your world. And just use it for its maximum effect. It's wonderful. It's the world building that makes your players want to be there. If you were to strip out everything and leave it as just the bare mechanics, you could play the game. Okay? The numbers are what make the game playable. It's everything else that you as the GM add that makes them want to be there. I had a space station one time. When I was rolling the space station, I rolled for traits on it, and I rolled it as a magical dead zone. Well, there's no magic in Star Trek. So instead, I said, well, according to Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So I just made a station where magic, or where technology ceased to exist. It just doesn't function. What did that mean? It meant that inside that space station, no technology worked. So how does the space station live? Well, it needs to have life support, because if there's no life support, there's no life. Which means that the entire interior of the station needs to have its own biosphere. It needs plants for oxygen reclamation. It needs soil for water purification. It needed bioluminescent fungus for light. And everybody inside, despite understanding fully that, it's Star Trek, they have technology. Everybody inside has to live an agrarian life. There's no gravity in space, so what do? They make literal magnetic boots. Using just permanent magnets. So you strap on your pair of boots, and now you can walk across the metal floors. It's not actual gravity, but it works like it. One of my players had a prosthetic arm. Because no technology in this area functioned, I disabled their arm. And so now they have this limp floating arm, and they have to figure out how do they navigate the environment with only one arm. It lets you really define the environment of a place and give your players something to remember, because I can guarantee you my players remember that place. They even took souvenirs from that place. They marked it on the map as a place that they might, not saying that they will, but they might want to return to later. And so I saved the entire profile for that station and civilization. Just because it made an impact and they may want to go back. And that's just like it is for the City of Tears. You don't need to have special mechanical effects for the dripping water. But if you describe the place well enough, they may remember it as, that city where it never stopped raining. And they're going to want to come back to it. Now, should something happen, like the lake overhead of the City of Tears were to break open, yeah, now you got a flood. Now you've got some mechanical stuff to work with. Maybe the dripping is progressively getting heavier, and now it's a constant rain. Now, some things are starting to flood. Maybe now you're getting into things like visual penalties and stuff like that. But those are choices that you can make. And every choice that you make like that will change the game a little bit, and it will make it more memorable. So, that's where I stand on that. And that's also where I'm going to end things up, because I'm already like 10 minutes over time. But if you want to talk about this more, like I said, subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon, that way you get notified every time these videos come out. if you are into tabletop games like Pathfinder, Starfinder, even other games, I do know Dungeons & Dragons. I know a little Shadowrun. I know a little Call of Cthulhu. I do other games too, but primarily I'm Pathfinder, Starfinder. Then, share this video with people. You can leave a like on the video. I like it when people leave a like on a video. Makes me feel good. You can also leave comments down below, but otherwise, join the Discord. Okay, we have one, and I would love to have you there, especially you, MG. Hoping to see you there. You can join the Discord if you want to play with us. Go to the Behind the Screen channel. Let me know what games you want to play and what your availability is, and as soon as I can, I will get you into a game. I have 3 people for a Gene Stealer game. I need one more. One more. Probably going to be like a Saturday or a Tuesday. So if either of those works for you, hey, come play with us. So yeah, come play with us on the Discord. Otherwise, come play with me here for the next stream. And I hope to see you then. Until then, take care.